A sickle cell black boy gets denied water for 6 hours on a flight, and moments later his dad's text to a pilot friend grounds all flights. But what the flight attendant said when this 12-year-old begged for water to save his life will make you question whether medical racism ever really ended. You just had a drink during boarding, wait for the beverage cart like everyone else, stop asking for special treatment because you're not getting it. Flight attendant Sharon Hendricks stands in the aisle of SkyWest Flight 3472 from Atlanta to Los Angeles, her voice sharp with irritation, looking down at 12-year-old Isaiah Langford like he's a nuisance instead of a child with a life-threatening medical condition. The words hit Isaiah like a slap, his hands already trembling from the early symptoms of what's coming, his mouth dry, his body screaming for the hydration that keeps his sickle cell disease from triggering a crisis that could kill him. He's scared, but he tries one more time, his voice polite and desperate. "Ma'am, I have sickle cell disease. I need to drink water every hour or I get really sick. My mom is a doctor and she packed all my medical papers if you need to see them." Sharon waves her hand dismissively. Everyone wants special treatment these days. Everyone has some condition that makes them more important than other passengers. You'll get water when we come through with the cart like everyone else. Here's what nobody wants to admit in 2025. Medical racism didn't die when hospitals integrated. It didn't disappear when we started teaching cultural competency in medical schools. It evolved and learned to hide behind phrases like special treatment and wait your turn and stop being so demanding. And in some ways that makes it more deadly than the segregated medicine of the past, because now when black children die from medical neglect, people can claim it was just poor communication, just one person's mistake, just an unfortunate misunderstanding instead of the systematic devaluation of black pain and black lives. Isaiah isn't surprised by Sharon's refusal. He's shocked, yes, because you're never quite ready for an adult to tell you that your medical needs don't matter. But surprised? No, he wasn't. This is his reality as a black child with an invisible disability, the teacher who didn't believe his pain was real and sent him back to class when he needed the nurse, the coach who said he was being lazy when sickle cell fatigue made him too exhausted to run, the doctor in the emergency room who made him wait 4 hours for pain medication because they assumed he was drug-seeking. Each time the same script, the same dismissal, the same message that his suffering doesn't deserve urgency. 2 hours into the flight and Isaiah's body is already responding to dehydration, his joints starting to ache with the deep bone pain that signals his blood cells are beginning to sickle and clump, his chest tight with the early stages of oxygen deprivation, but he waits for the beverage cart like Sharon told him to because he's a polite child who does what adults say even when those adults are killing him. 30 minutes later, the cart finally reaches his row. Isaiah looks up with hope and desperation, his hands shaking as he prepares to accept the water that will save his life. Sharon looks directly at him, her face cold with manufactured authority. "You've been asking too much, learn some patience." She moves the cart past his row without giving him anything, leaves him sitting there with tears forming in his eyes and pain radiating through his body and 6 hours of torture ahead that will push him to the edge of death. Around them, other passengers notice something is wrong, see a child crying and clutching his chest, but nobody intervenes because flight attendants are authority and surely they know what they're doing. Surely they wouldn't deny a child water without good reason. Surely this isn't what it looks like. If you believe no child should be denied water on a 6-hour flight, keep watching. If you think medical discrimination is something we solved decades ago, you need to see what happens when Isaiah's father, a commercial airline pilot, finds out his son is being tortured at 30,000 feet. And if you've ever had your pain dismissed by medical professionals, drop a comment below and tell us your story. We're reading every single one. Tell us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. This story doesn't end the way you think. Hit that like button if medical racism makes your blood boil and subscribe to this channel because we're exposing the discrimination that's still killing people in 2025. Isaiah pulls out his phone with trembling fingers 6 hours later, barely able to type through the agony, sends a text to his father that will ground every flight in the sky and end Sharon Hendricks' career in the most public way possible. But to understand how a 12-year-old boy ended up fighting for his life while a flight attendant served mimosas in first class, you need to know who Isaiah Langford really is, and more importantly, you need to understand why this trip to Los Angeles represents everything his parents have worked to give him despite a disease that's tried to steal his childhood since he was diagnosed at 18 months old. Isaiah Langford is 12 years old, 7th grade at Martin Luther King Jr. Academy in Atlanta, captain of the debate team, straight a student who dreams of becoming a civil rights attorney like Thurgood Marshall. He's polite to the point of being formal, the kind of kid who says yes ma'am and no sir without being prompted, who holds doors for strangers and writes thank you notes after birthday parties. He's responsible beyond his years because sickle cell disease taught him early that his survival depends on vigilance, on remembering to hydrate, on recognizing symptoms before they become crises, on carrying medical documentation everywhere he goes. He's also brilliant, selected as one of 12 finalists nationwide for the National Middle School Debate Championship Persuasive Speaking category. His speech titled The Price of Disbelief, arguing that medical racism kills more Black Americans than any other form of discrimination because it disguises itself as clinical judgment. The irony of what's about to happen to him won't be lost on anyone who hears that title. His mother is Dr. Maya Langford, hematologist at Emory University Hospital specializing in sickle cell disease. She treats children with the same condition her son has, understands intimately how quickly dehydration can trigger a crisis, how pain that seems manageable can escalate to organ failure within hours. She packed Isaiah's bag with military precision, 3 water bottles, electrolyte packets, detailed medical documentation, emergency contact cards with her cell phone and pager, explicit instructions typed and laminated that Isaiah must drink water every hour without exception. His father is Marcus Langford, commercial airline pilot for Delta with 20 years experience. He knows every regulation about accommodating passengers with medical needs, knows that denying water to someone with sickle cell disease is tantamount to assault. He wanted to fly with Isaiah, but his schedule had him piloting a different route. He'll be flying Atlanta to Los Angeles later today, plans to meet his son tonight at the hotel, never imagining he'll be receiving a desperate text message from 30,000 feet. That morning Isaiah woke at 5 a.m., too excited to sleep. The debate championship is the culmination of 2 years of preparation, hundreds of hours of research and practice, his chance to prove that a kid with sickle cell can compete at the highest levels despite missing school for hospital stays and painful episodes. His mother made him a big breakfast, watched him drink 2 full glasses of water, checked his hydration supplies 3 times. His father drove him to the airport, both of them talking about the championship, about Isaiah's competitors, about the speech that could win him a college scholarship fund. At departures, Marcus hugged his son tight, reminded him to drink water religiously, to show his medical papers to the flight crew, to call immediately if anything felt wrong. You're going to be amazing up there, kiddo. Just remember everything we practiced, and stay hydrated no matter what. Check-in went smoothly. The gate agent processed his unaccompanied minor paperwork, commented on how mature and responsible he seemed. Security was normal, TSA agents professional. One asked about his medical supplies, nodded approvingly when Isaiah explained everything clearly. The gate area was typical, business travelers on phones, families with young children, college students heading home. Isaiah sat with his debate coach Ms. Rodriguez and 3 teammates, all of them reviewing notes and practicing rebuttals. Boarding began. Isaiah walked down the jetway with his teammates, found his seat in row 18, middle seat in economy, settled in with his backpack under the seat in front of him containing his water bottles and medical documentation. The plane was older, seats worn but clean, overhead bins already stuffed from earlier boarding groups, the cabin smelling like recycled air and industrial carpet cleaner. Around him other passengers stowed bags and found seats. A white businessman in the aisle seat immediately put on noise-canceling headphones and opened his laptop. A young white woman in the window seat smiled at Isaiah, then buried herself in a romance novel. His teammates were scattered in different rows, Ms. Rodriguez sitting 5 rows ahead with the other students. Flight attendants moved through checking seatbelts and overhead bins. A young man named Tyler helped Isaiah stow his debate materials, asked if he needed anything, seemed genuinely kind. An older woman named Patricia walking past smiled and wished everyone a good flight. The crew seemed normal, professional, nothing suggesting what was about to unfold. Then Sharon Hendricks appeared, senior flight attendant doing her pre-flight check of the economy cabin, and something in her expression shifted when she saw Isaiah. Not overtly hostile, just a subtle narrowing of eyes, a barely perceptible change in energy. The microaggression of someone who's decided a black child in a middle seat doesn't quite fit her mental image of who belongs there. You traveling alone? Sharon's tone carried judgment, not concern. Yes, ma'am, Isaiah answered politely. I'm going to a debate championship in Los Angeles. My coach is a few rows up with my teammates. Sharon looked at his backpack, at the water bottles visible in the mesh pocket. That's a lot of water for a few hours. Why do you need so much? I have sickle cell disease, ma'am, Isaiah explained, pulling out his medical documentation. I need to stay hydrated or I can get really sick. My doctor wrote instructions if you want to see them. Sharon glanced at the papers without really reading them, her face showing skepticism. Well, we have beverages on the flight. You don't need to bring your own supply like you're going camping. My mom always makes sure I have extra, Isaiah said, still polite but confused by her tone. Just in case. Sharon handed back his papers without commenting, walked away muttering something about helicopter parents and kids who think they need special accommodations, and Isaiah felt the first flutter of unease that he dismissed because surely adults know what they're doing, surely a flight attendant wouldn't do anything to endanger a passenger. The plane pushed back from the gate, taxied toward the runway. Isaiah drank from one of his water bottles during the safety demonstration like his mother taught him. Stay ahead of thirst, hydrate before you feel you need it. And then 2 hours into the flight when his body started telling him it needed more water, when he pressed his call button with the innocent trust of a child who believes adults will help him, Sharon Hendricks made a decision that would nearly kill him and end her career in the most public and devastating way possible. 30 minutes crawl by after Sharon's first refusal, 30 minutes that feel like hours to Isaiah as his body starts sending urgent signals that something is wrong, his mouth getting drier, his joints beginning to ache with the deep bone pain that every sickle cell patient knows means trouble is coming. He's 3 hours into the flight now, 3 hours since his last proper hydration, and his blood is already beginning to thicken, red blood cells starting to change shape from smooth discs to the rigid crescents that give the disease its name. He presses the call button again because he has no choice, because waiting means getting sicker, because surely Sharon will understand now that more time has passed, surely she'll see he's not being difficult, just desperate. Sharon appears at his row, her face already showing irritation before he even speaks. Well, Isaiah's voice comes out smaller than he wants, near tears from pain and fear. Please, ma'am, I really need water. I have sickle cell disease. It's a medical condition where my blood cells get sticky and clump together if I don't stay hydrated. My mom is a doctor and she wrote everything down. He pulls out the laminated medical letter from Dr. Isaiah Langford, detailed explanation of sickle cell disease, explicit hydration requirements, emergency contact information, everything a flight crew would need to understand the urgency. Sharon barely glances at it, waves it away like it's irrelevant. I know what sickle cell is, and I also know manipulation when I see it. You're trying to get special treatment by claiming medical issues. I've seen this before from passengers who think they're entitled to constant service. But this isn't special treatment, Isaiah tries to explain, his hands shaking as he holds the letter. This is keeping me from getting really sick. My mom says if I don't drink water every hour I can have a crisis where my blood stops flowing right and I have to go to the hospital. Anyone can type up a letter. Sharon's voice is dismissive, final. That doesn't mean you get to harass my crew all flight demanding water like you're the only passenger on this plane. The white man in seat 23B who's been pretending not to listen can't stay silent anymore, turns in his seat to face Sharon. Ma'am, excuse me, but he seems legitimately unwell. Couldn't you just give him some water? It's not like it costs anything. Sharon's expression hardens, her authority challenged. Sir, please don't interfere with crew operations. I'm trained to assess passenger needs and I've determined this young man is fine. She walks away before either of them can respond, disappearing toward the galley, leaving Isaiah fighting back tears, leaving the man looking stunned at what he just witnessed. Isaiah looks at his seatmate with desperate hope. Do you have any water I could have? I'm sorry to ask, but I'm really not feeling good. The man immediately hands over his half-empty bottle. Of course, kid, here, take it. Drink as much as you need. Isaiah drinks gratefully, the water soothing his dry throat, not nearly enough to make up for 3 hours of dehydration, but something, a small relief in the mounting crisis his body is fighting. 10 minutes later, Sharon returns doing another walk through the cabin, sees Isaiah drinking from the man's water bottle, her face transforming into fury. That is a health code violation. Her voice cuts through the cabin, making other passengers turn to stare. Sharing food and beverages between passengers is strictly prohibited. She reaches across the man in 23B, snatches the bottle from Isaiah's hands so abruptly that water spills on his shirt. This is confiscated. You both should know better than to violate safety regulations. But I need water. Isaiah's voice breaks completely now, tears spilling over. Please, I'm getting sicker. I can feel it. Please just give me something to drink. You should have thought about that before breaking regulations. Sharon holds the confiscated bottle like evidence of a crime. Maybe this will teach you to follow the rules. The man in 23B stands up, his voice rising with disbelief. Are you serious right now? He's a sick child begging for water and you're confiscating it over some made-up health code? Give him the water back. Sir, one more outburst and I'll have to report you for disruptive behavior. Sharon's voice is cold with manufactured authority. You're interfering with crew safety operations and that's a federal offense. The man looks like he wants to argue more, wants to fight this insanity, but fear of being labeled disruptive, fear of federal charges, fear of making things worse makes him sit back down, makes him choose his own safety over Isaiah's life. I'm sorry, kid, he whispers to Isaiah. I don't know what else to do. Isaiah nods through his tears, understanding that this man tried, that trying isn't always enough, that sometimes the people with power use that power to crush the powerless and everybody else just watches. Sharon walks away with the confiscated water bottle, actually smiling slightly, enjoying the exercise of authority, enjoying putting a demanding child in his place, completely oblivious to the fact that she's slowly killing him. 4.5 hours into the flight now, 4.5 hours since Isaiah's last proper hydration, his body is beginning to shut down in ways that will soon become irreversible, his blood cells sickling and clumping, blocking the tiny vessels that feed his organs, starving his tissues of oxygen, building toward a crisis that could cause stroke or organ failure or death. His joints ache with increasing intensity, his chest feels tight like someone is sitting on it, his head pounds with the early stages of dehydration, nausea rolls through his stomach, cold sweat breaks out across his skin. He rocks back and forth in his seat trying to manage the pain, clutches his knees, presses his forehead against the seat in front of him, quiet whimpers escaping despite his attempts to stay silent. And Sharon Hendricks serves drinks in first class, checks her watch calculating when her shift ends, feels completely justified in everything she's done, completely confident that she taught an entitled child a lesson about patience and respect. 4.5 hours into the flight, 4.5 hours since Isaiah last had proper hydration, his body crosses the invisible line from uncomfortable to dangerous, from managing to failing, from sick child to medical emergency. His sickle cell disease shifts into active crisis, blood cells warping into rigid crescents that jam together like broken puzzle pieces, blocking the small vessels that carry oxygen to his tissues, starving his organs cell by cell. The pain escalates beyond anything he's experienced before, severe aching in his knees and elbows and shoulders like his bones are being crushed from inside, sharp stabbing pains in his chest every time he tries to breathe deeply, his ribs and sternum feeling like they're being squeezed in a vice. His breathing becomes shallow and rapid, his body unable to pull in enough oxygen through the blocked vessels, dizziness making the cabin spin around him, nausea churning in his stomach. He rocks back and forth in his seat trying to find any position that hurts less, clutches his knees to his chest, tears streaming down his face, quiet whimpering sounds escaping despite his desperate attempts to stay quiet because he doesn't want to bother anyone, doesn't want to give Sharon another reason to be angry with him. The woman in seat 23A, white, maybe in her 60s, looks over at him with visible annoyance rather than concern. Is he going to be doing that the whole flight? Her voice carries irritation, not sympathy. It's very disruptive. I'm trying to rest. The man in 23B turns to her with barely controlled anger. He's sick, can't you see that? He needs help, not complaints. The woman huffs, puts on her noise-canceling headphones, closes her eyes, chooses her comfort over a child suffering, chooses to not see what's happening 3 feet away because seeing would require doing something and doing something feels too hard. Isaiah tries to stand, some instinct telling him that movement might help the pain, might get blood flowing, his legs buckle underneath him and he grabs the seat back to keep from falling. The cabin tilts and sways, his vision tunneling to a pinpoint, his body screaming that something is catastrophically wrong. The man in 23B catches him, helps him sit back down gently. Kid, you need a doctor right now. Let me call the flight attendant again. Someone needs to see how bad this is. He presses the call button repeatedly, urgent, insistent chimes that echo through the cabin, other passengers looking over with curiosity and annoyance, nobody understanding they're watching a child die in real time. Trevor, the junior flight attendant, appears, genuine concern on his young face. What's the issue, sir? This boy is in serious pain. The man gestures at Isaiah, who's now pale and sweating and shaking. He has sickle cell disease and he hasn't had water in hours. He needs medical attention immediately. This isn't normal. Something is really wrong. Trevor's eyes widen with alarm as he takes in Isaiah's condition, the visible distress, the labored breathing, the way he's clutching his chest and knees. Oh no, okay, let me get Sharon and the medical kit right away. We'll figure this out. He rushes toward the galley, returns moments later with Sharon, whose face already shows irritation before she even sees Isaiah. Well, now, her voice is sharp with impatience. I thought we settled this. The man stands, blocking her path, forcing her to look at Isaiah. He's in pain, real pain. Look at him for God's sake. Sharon looks, sees Isaiah pale and sweating and shaking and clearly in medical distress, sees symptoms that should trigger immediate action in anyone with basic human compassion, but her pride won't let her admit she was wrong 3 hours ago, won't let her acknowledge that this black child was telling the truth while she dismissed him as manipulative. He's being dramatic, she says with finality. Probably motion sickness or anxiety. Some children don't handle flying well and they act out for attention. Trevor steps closer, his voice uncertain but trying. Sharon, he said he has sickle cell disease. Maybe we should check his medical documentation or call for a doctor on board, just to be safe? And I say he's looking for attention. Sharon's voice rises slightly. I've been flying for 19 years. I've seen kids fake illness for special treatment. This is textbook attention-seeking behavior. The man's voice explodes with disbelief. Are you blind? Look at him. Isaiah is now visibly deteriorating, his skin taking on a grayish pallor, cold sweat drenching his shirt, his whole body trembling with pain and shock, chest heaving with the effort to breathe through vessels that are closing off one by one. Sir, final warning, Sharon points at the man. Calm down immediately or you'll be met by authorities upon landing. You're creating a disturbance and interfering with crew operations. I'm creating a disturbance? The man looks at her like she's lost her mind. A child is suffering right in front of you and I'm the problem? One more word and I'm reporting you. Sharon's voice goes cold with threat. Sit down, be quiet, let me do my job. She walks away, leaving Isaiah gasping and crying and dying, leaving Trevor looking horrified and helpless, leaving the man in 23B staring after her in stunned disbelief. I'm sorry, kid, the man whispers to Isaiah, his voice breaking. I tried. I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to make her listen. Isaiah can barely respond, the pain too overwhelming, his consciousness starting to fragment, his 12-year-old brain unable to process why adults won't help him, why explaining his disease isn't enough, why begging isn't enough, why being polite and following the rules isn't enough. 5 rows ahead, Coach Rodriguez sits completely unaware that her student is entering a medical crisis, absorbed in reviewing debate materials, trusting that the flight crew is taking care of her students, having no idea that trust is killing one of them. If you've ever watched someone suffer and done nothing because intervening felt too risky, if you've ever chosen your own comfort over someone else's emergency, this story should haunt you. Isaiah is 12 years old, in agony, begging for help that costs nothing to give, and passengers are recording on their phones but staying silent. Subscribe if you believe no child should die because adults decided their pain wasn't real. Like this video if medical neglect makes your blood boil, because Isaiah's coach is about to discover what's happening and what she does next will determine if this boy lives or dies. 5 hours into the flight, 5 hours of systematic torture. Isaiah's teammate Jasmine from row 24 walks past going to the bathroom, glances at Isaiah, stops dead when she sees his condition. Isaiah? Her voice is scared, confused. What's wrong? Are you okay? Isaiah manages to lift his head slightly, his vision so blurred he can barely see her. Get coach, please, something's really wrong. I need help. Jasmine runs toward the front of the plane, her 12-year-old legs carrying her as fast as she can, and Coach Rodriguez is about to learn that the nightmare she's always feared, losing a student on her watch, is unfolding in real time 30,000 feet above the ground. Jasmine reaches Coach Rodriguez 5 rows ahead, her voice urgent and frightened, tugging on her teacher's sleeve. Coach, you need to come right now, something's really wrong with Isaiah. He looks terrible and he's crying and I think he's really sick. Coach Rodriguez stands immediately, her maternal instincts and professional responsibility overriding everything else. She knows about Isaiah's sickle cell disease, attended the medical briefing with his mother before the trip, understands exactly how quickly things can go wrong. She follows Jasmine back to row 23, pushes through the narrow aisle, and what she sees makes her blood run cold. Isaiah is doubled over in his seat, clutching his abdomen and chest like he's trying to hold himself together, rocking slightly, his face gray and drenched in sweat, tears streaming down his cheeks, breathing in short, shallow gasps that sound wrong, painful, desperate. Isaiah. Coach Rodriguez kneels in the aisle beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Isaiah, honey, what's happening? Did you take your medication? Have you been drinking your water like your mom said? Isaiah tries to speak but the words come out broken, separated by gasps and whimpers. Coach, no water, she won't give me any, asked so many times, 5 hours, maybe more. Coach Rodriguez's face transforms from concern to fury in an instant, her mind doing the math. 5 hours without water for a child with sickle cell disease. 5 hours of dehydration triggering exactly the kind of crisis that can cause permanent damage or death. Well, who won't give you water? Which flight attendant? The mean one, Isaiah manages. Sharon keeps saying, I'm being dramatic, took water from the man, said it was against rules. Coach Rodriguez stands, her professional calm shattering into protective rage. She presses the call button so hard it hurts her finger, holds it down until someone responds, her other hand gripping the seat back to keep herself from shaking. Sharon appears, her expression already defensive. Yes, is there a problem? This student has sickle cell disease. Coach Rodriguez's voice is steel. He requires hourly hydration as a medical necessity. Why hasn't he received water? Sharon crosses her arms, her posture radiating false authority. He's received the same beverage service as all passengers. I'm not playing favorites or giving special treatment to children who think they're entitled to constant attention. He's not entitled, he's sick. Coach Rodriguez's voice rises enough that passengers nearby start watching. He says he's asked multiple times over 5 hours and been denied. Is that true? He's been disruptive and demanding. Sharon's voice takes on that dismissive tone she's perfected over 19 years. We can't accommodate every special request from passengers who don't want to wait their turn. This isn't a special request, this is a medical necessity. Coach Rodriguez pulls out her phone, shows Sharon the medical documentation she has saved. Sickle cell disease causes blood cells to clump and block vessels when patients become dehydrated. He could have a crisis that causes organ failure. Do you understand what you've done? Ma'am, I don't appreciate your tone. Sharon's defense mechanism is doubling down on authority. Perhaps if your student had asked politely instead of acting entitled, I would have been more accommodating. The man in 23B can't stay silent anymore, stands up to support the coach. She confiscated water that I tried to give him, claimed it was a health code violation. She's been deliberately denying him help for hours. Coach Rodriguez stares at Sharon with an expression that could melt steel. You did what? You confiscated water from a sick child? Health code regulations prohibit sharing beverages between passengers. Sharon's voice wavers slightly, her confidence cracking. I was following protocol. Protocol? Coach Rodriguez's voice shakes with barely controlled rage. The protocol for a child with a documented medical condition is to help them, not torture them. I don't appreciate being accused of torture. Sharon's face flushes red. I'm a professional with 19 years experience and I made a judgment call based on what I observed. What you observed was a black child asking for help and you decided he was lying. Coach Rodriguez finally says what everyone is thinking. You looked at him and saw manipulation instead of medical emergency. You saw entitlement instead of disease, and now he's in crisis because of your bias. That's a serious accusation. Sharon's voice goes cold. I don't see race, I treat all passengers equally. You don't see race? Coach Rodriguez gestures at Isaiah, who's barely conscious now. Then why didn't you believe him? Why didn't you check his medical papers? Why did you confiscate water from a dehydrated child? What exactly made you so certain he was faking? The question hangs in the air. Nobody needs Sharon to answer because everyone already knows. The passengers watching can see it. Trevor standing nearby can see it. Even Sharon herself knows the truth she'll never admit. I want water for this child immediately. Coach Rodriguez's voice is command, not request. And I want to speak to the captain right now. This is medical negligence and I'm reporting it the second we land. The captain is busy flying the plane. Sharon retreats behind procedure. I'll get him some water, but you need to calm down and stop creating a scene. A scene? Coach Rodriguez's voice rises to something close to a shout. My student is dying and you're worried about a scene? Get him water now and get me someone in authority before I call 911 the moment we touch ground. Sharon finally moves toward the galley, her authority demolished, her confidence replaced with the creeping realization that this isn't going to end well for her. She returns 5 minutes later with a single small cup containing maybe 8 ounces of water, hands it to Coach Rodriguez with visible reluctance. That's all? Coach Rodriguez stares at the pathetic amount. 5 hours of dehydration and you bring him 8 ounces? That's what I can spare from the beverage service. Sharon's voice is defensive, weak. Coach Rodriguez takes the cup, helps Isaiah drink, his hands shaking so badly she has to hold it for him. He gulps it desperately, but it's not enough, nowhere near enough, too little too late for a body that's been shutting down for hours. Isaiah slumps back after drinking, his chest still heaving, pain still radiating through his joints and organs, the small amount of water barely making a dent in the crisis that's consuming him. Coach Rodriguez pulls out her phone, looks at the flight information, 30 minutes until landing, 30 minutes that feel like an eternity when you're watching a child suffer. She texts Isaiah's parents, brief urgent message, Isaiah in medical crisis on flight, denied water for hours, meeting ambulance at LAX. Then she does something that will change everything. She takes a photo of Isaiah in his current state, gray skin, sweat-soaked shirt, pain-racked expression, evidence of what Sharon Hendricks has done. But Isaiah's father Marcus is about to receive a different message, a text from his son that will trigger a response bigger than Coach Rodriguez could imagine, that will ground flights and end careers and change aviation policy forever. 5.5 hours into the flight, 30 minutes from landing in Los Angeles, Isaiah sits in his seat barely clinging to consciousness, the pain so overwhelming it eclipses everything else, his whole world reduced to the agony radiating through his chest and joints and the desperate knowledge that something is catastrophically wrong inside his body. Coach Rodriguez sits beside him now, having moved from her seat, holding his hand, talking to him softly, trying to keep him alert, but Isaiah's mind is drifting, consciousness fragmenting, the edges of his vision going dark. Through the fog of pain and fading awareness, Isaiah remembers his phone, remembers his father, remembers that Dad always knows what to do, always fixes things, always protects him. He pulls the phone from his pocket with hands that shake so violently he almost drops it, his vision so blurred he can barely see the screen. He opens his messages, finds Dad in his contacts, tries to type but his fingers won't cooperate properly, the letters jumping and sliding, words coming out wrong, having to delete and retype, each keystroke taking monumental effort. Dad, they won't give me water for 6 hours. The message takes him 2 minutes to type, his shaking hands making mistakes he has to correct. In so much pain, another minute of struggle. Something really wrong, his vision tunneling further. Help me please. He hits send with the last of his strength, the phone slipping from his trembling fingers onto his lap, his head falling back against the seat, chest heaving with shallow, rapid breaths. Meanwhile, 30,000 feet away on a different aircraft, Marcus Langford pilots Delta Flight 1847 from Atlanta to Los Angeles, his plane currently over Texas, about 2 hours from their destination. The flight is routine, smooth, autopilot engaged during cruise altitude, his co-pilot monitoring instruments while Marcus does his regular checks. During cruise, pilots are allowed to check personal devices for messages. Marcus pulls out his phone more out of habit than expectation, sees a text notification from Isaiah, smiles thinking his son is probably excited about the debate championship. The smile dies when he reads the message. Marcus feels his heart stop, reads it again, the words not making sense because they're too terrible to be real. 6 hours without water, his son with sickle cell disease, his son who needs hydration like other people need oxygen, his son in so much pain he can barely type. Every bit of Marcus's medical training from his pilot certification, every conversation with his wife about sickle cell management, every emergency drill he's run in 20 years of flying tells him exactly what this means. Isaiah is in crisis, vaso-occlusive crisis, blood cells clumping and blocking vessels, organs being starved of oxygen, brain and kidneys and lungs at risk of permanent damage. He texts back immediately, his own hands shaking now. Isaiah, I'm getting you help right now. Hold on, son. Where are you hurting? The response takes 3 minutes to come, each second an eternity. Everywhere, chest, legs, can't breathe good, coach here now. Marcus turns to his co-pilot, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through him. I need to make emergency communications, family medical emergency, my son is in crisis on another flight. His co-pilot looks concerned but professional. Go ahead, Captain, I have the aircraft. Marcus pulls up his airline communication system, accesses the flight database, finds SkyWest Flight 3472, currently over Arizona, 30 minutes from LAX landing. He immediately calls Delta Operations Center, his voice carrying the authority of 20 years and the desperation of a father watching his child die from a distance. This is Captain Marcus Langford, employee number 47293. I need emergency contact with SkyWest Flight 3472 immediately. My 12-year-old son is on that flight experiencing a sickle cell crisis after being denied medically necessary hydration for 6 hours. The operations coordinator sounds confused. Captain, we can relay a message through inter-airline channels, but direct contact isn't standard protocol. This isn't standard, Marcus's voice hardens. My son is dying because their crew denied him water. I need to speak with their operations or their captain now. Every minute we waste his condition worsens. So we'll contact SkyWest Operations and have them relay urgent medical information to the flight crew. Not fast enough, Marcus makes a decision that will change everything. Patch me through to SkyWest Operations directly. I'm invoking emergency family medical protocol, and if they can't get their captain on the line, I'm contacting the FAA and air traffic control myself. The coordinator hesitates, understanding this is irregular but hearing the desperation and authority in Marcus's voice. Hold please, Captain, connecting you now. 60 seconds tick by, 60 seconds where Isaiah is suffering, where his organs are failing, where permanent damage is spreading through his small body cell by cell. SkyWest Operations comes on the line, a woman's voice professional but wary. This is SkyWest Operations, we understand you have a passenger concern? Marcus doesn't waste time on pleasantries. My son Isaiah Langford is on your flight 3472 in a life-threatening medical crisis. He has sickle cell disease which requires hourly hydration. Your lead flight attendant has denied him water for 6 hours despite medical documentation and repeated requests. He's now experiencing severe pain, chest pain, difficulty breathing. These are signs of vaso-occlusive crisis which can cause stroke, organ failure or death in children. So we'll notify the flight crew of the medical emergency immediately. Your crew is the problem. Marcus's professional calm cracks slightly. Your flight attendant is the one who created this emergency by denying medical care. I need you to patch me through to your captain. I need medical response waiting on the ground. I need action now, not promises. We're contacting the flight now, sir. Please hold. Another 30 seconds, 30 more seconds of Isaiah suffering, Marcus imagining his son's pain, his fear, his confusion about why adults won't help him. Captain Jennifer Walsh of SkyWest Flight 3472 comes on the line, her voice calm professional. This is Captain Walsh. I understand there's a medical concern about a passenger? Marcus takes a breath, forces himself to stay controlled. Captain, this is Captain Marcus Langford, Delta Airlines. My son Isaiah is in seat 23C on your aircraft. He has sickle cell disease documented with your crew before boarding. He's been systematically denied water for 6 hours by your lead flight attendant. He just texted me that he's in severe pain with chest involvement and breathing difficulty. These are critical symptoms that require immediate intervention. Walsh's voice changes immediately, The professional distance replaced by genuine alarm. Captain, I wasn't informed of any medical situation. Let me contact my cabin crew right now. Your lead attendant's name is Sharon Hendricks. Marcus provides the information Coach Rodriguez texted him. She's been telling passengers and crew that my son is being dramatic and seeking attention. She confiscated water another passenger tried to give him. She's been actively preventing him from getting help. Hold one moment. Walsh sounds horrified. Marcus hears her call back to the cabin over the internal communications, hears muffled voices, then Sharon's voice coming through defensive and angry, and Marcus Langford makes a decision that will ground an entire airline. Captain Walsh's voice comes back on the line, tight with barely controlled anger. Captain Langford, I've just confirmed with my cabin crew that your son has indeed been requesting water, and my lead flight attendant made a judgment call that his requests were excessive. I'm declaring a medical emergency immediately and requesting ground medical to meet the aircraft. Judgment call? Marcus's voice goes cold with fury. She made a judgment call to deny water to a child with documented sickle cell disease? What judgment allows that? Captain, I understand your concern. Walsh tries to maintain professional distance. We're taking action now. Medical will be waiting when we land in approximately 25 minutes. 25 minutes might be too late, Marcus says, his pilot brain calculating timing and damage. Captain, my son has been in crisis for hours. His organs are being starved of oxygen right now. Every minute increases the risk of permanent neurological damage or death. I need you to understand the severity. I do understand, sir. We're doing everything we can from here. No, you're not. Marcus makes his decision. You're landing the plane, but you're not addressing how this happened, how a flight attendant can torture a sick child for 6 hours and nobody stops her. I need more than an ambulance waiting. I need accountability. Sir, I assure you there will be a full investigation once we land safely. That's not enough. Marcus switches to his other phone, dials a number he's had for 15 years. Captain Walsh, stay on this line. I'm making another call. He connects to Raymond Torres, Senior Vice President of Flight Operations at the FAA, a man he's known since flight school, a friend who owes him favors, a person with the power to move mountains. Raymond, it's Marcus Langford. I need you to do something right now, and I need you to trust me that it's necessary. Raymond's voice is warm, friendly. Marcus, good to hear from you. What's going on? My 12-year-old son is dying on SkyWest Flight 3472 because their crew denied him water for 6 hours. He has sickle cell disease. He showed them medical documentation. He begged for help, and they called him dramatic and manipulative and let him suffer. I need you to ground SkyWest operations until I have answers about how this happened. The line goes silent. Marcus can hear Raymond processing this, understanding the magnitude of what's being asked. Marcus, that's grounding an entire airline. That's hundreds of flights, tens of thousands of passengers. My son is one passenger and they're killing him. Marcus's voice breaks slightly. They looked at a black child in pain and decided he was lying. They took away water another passenger tried to give him. They threatened people who tried to help. And right now he's in crisis that could cause stroke or organ failure. So yes, I'm asking you to ground every single SkyWest flight until someone explains to me how this is acceptable. Raymond's voice shifts to something harder, official. Give me the flight number and details. I'm calling their CEO right now. Flight 3472, Atlanta to LAX. Lead flight attendant Sharon Hendricks. My son is Isaiah Langford in seat 23C. Marcus provides everything. Raymond, I'm not asking as a favor. I'm telling you that if SkyWest doesn't ground themselves voluntarily, I'm going to every news station, every civil rights organization, the NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus, and I'm telling them that American Airlines are willing to let black children die rather than give them water. You'll have your grounding, Raymond says quietly. Give me 10 minutes. Marcus switches back to Captain Walsh, who's been listening to part of this. Captain Walsh, I've just requested that the FAA ground all SkyWest operations pending investigation into this incident. Walsh's voice sounds stunned. Captain Langford, that's an extreme measure. What's extreme is denying water to a dying child, Marcus says flatly. What's extreme is medical staff having to explain to my wife that our son has brain damage because a flight attendant thought he was too demanding. That's extreme. Sir, I understand you're upset, but grounding our entire operation affects thousands of passengers. And one of those passengers is my son, who your crew tortured for 6 hours. Marcus's professional control shatters completely. I don't care about thousands of inconvenienced passengers, I care about one dying child. And if SkyWest wants to fly again, they're going to explain how this happened and ensure it never happens again. He takes a breath, forces himself back to calm. Captain Walsh, I'm also contacting air traffic control directly to ensure medical response is coordinated. I need you to tell me honestly, how is my son right now? Walsh calls back to the cabin. Marcus hears Coach Rodriguez's voice through the connection describing Isaiah's condition: semiconscious, severe pain, difficulty breathing, showing signs of shock. Captain, your son is receiving care from his coach and we're preparing for emergency landing, Walsh says. Medical will board immediately. Tell whoever is with him that his father is moving heaven and earth to save him, Marcus says, his voice breaking. Tell him to hold on, tell him I'm coming, tell him he's not alone. I will, sir, Walsh promises. Marcus ends the call, immediately switches to aviation emergency frequency, identifies himself to Los Angeles Air Traffic Control. LAX Center, this is Delta Captain Marcus Langford off duty. I'm declaring a medical emergency for SkyWest Flight 3472. My 12-year-old son is experiencing sickle cell crisis due to crew negligence, requesting priority landing and immediate pediatric emergency response. The controller's voice is professional, efficient. Captain Langford, we're coordinating with SkyWest 3472 for emergency landing. Medical is being notified. Can you provide patient details? Marcus provides everything: Isaiah's age, condition, symptoms, the 6 hours of denied hydration, the critical nature of sickle cell crisis, the need for pediatric hematology specialists, not just paramedics. We're contacting Children's Hospital Los Angeles for specialized response, the controller confirms. SkyWest 3472 is receiving priority approach, 18 minutes to landing. 18 minutes, Marcus calculates, 18 minutes plus ground time plus transport. His son won't see a hospital for at least 40 minutes, 40 more minutes of crisis, 40 more minutes of potential damage. His phone rings, Raymond Torres calling back. Marcus, it's done. I just spoke with SkyWest CEO. They're issuing voluntary ground stop effective immediately. All SkyWest flights nationwide are being ordered to land at nearest suitable airports. No new departures until investigation is complete. How many flights? Marcus asks. 250 in the air, another 100 scheduled to depart in the next 2 hours, Raymond says. You just grounded an entire airline, Marcus. I hope your son is worth it. Every child is worth it, Marcus says quietly. Every sick child who asks for help deserves to get it, and if it takes grounding every airline in America to make that happen, then that's what we do. Your son's flight has absolute priority now, Raymond says. Medical is assembling a full crisis team. They'll be ready when he lands. Thank you, Raymond. Marcus feels tears threatening. I owe you. You don't owe me anything, Raymond says. Go be with your son. Marcus ends the call, stares at his instruments, at the routine flight he's piloting while his son fights for life on another plane, and he's never felt more powerless and more powerful at the same time. On Flight 3472, Captain Walsh makes the announcement that will alter the trajectory of hundreds of lives, her voice carrying through the cabin with practiced calm that belies the chaos unfolding. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We have a medical emergency on board and have been given priority landing at Los Angeles International. We'll be on the ground in approximately 15 minutes. Please remain seated with seatbelts fastened. Medical personnel will board immediately upon arrival. Passengers murmur with curiosity and annoyance, some checking watches calculating delays, some craning necks to see where the emergency is, most having no idea they've been witnesses to 6 hours of medical torture, that the child suffering in row 23 is the reason their airline just got grounded nationwide. Sharon Hendricks stands in the galley, her face pale as the reality crashes over her in waves. She heard Captain Walsh's conversation with Marcus Langford through the crew communication system, heard the word grounding, heard the fury in a father's voice, understands with creeping horror that this isn't going away, that this black child she dismissed as dramatic has a father who just shut down her entire airline. Trevor approaches her, his young face showing confusion and accusation. Sharon, what did you do? The captain says you denied that kid water for 6 hours. Is that true? Sharon's voice comes out defensive, shaking. He was being demanding. I've seen kids manipulate crew for attention. I made a judgment call based on my experience. He has sickle cell disease. Trevor's voice rises. His coach showed us the medical papers. He could die, Sharon. You could have killed him. I didn't know it was that serious. Sharon tries to justify. He was talking fine, walking fine. He seemed okay. He's not okay now. Trevor gestures toward row 23 where Isaiah is barely conscious. And his father just grounded our whole airline. Do you understand what that means? 250 flights, Sharon, thousands of passengers, millions of dollars, all because you wouldn't give a sick kid water. The plane begins its descent, engines changing pitch, the California coast appearing through windows, emergency vehicles already visible on the tarmac, lights flashing red and blue, an entire crisis response team assembled for one 12-year-old boy. In row 23, Coach Rodriguez holds Isaiah's hand, talks to him, constantly trying to keep him conscious. Isaiah, honey, we're almost there. Help is coming. Your dad made sure of it. Just hold on a little longer. Isaiah's eyes flutter, his lips moving but no sound coming out, his body shutting down system by system, blood vessels blocked throughout his organs, oxygen starvation spreading, brain cells beginning to die from lack of glucose and oxygen. The man in 23B has tears streaming down his face, guilt overwhelming him. I should have fought harder, should have made more noise, should have physically stopped that woman from walking away. You tried, Coach Rodriguez says gently. You did more than most. The failure isn't yours. But the man knows he'll carry this forever. The image of a suffering child and his own silence, his own fear of consequences, his choice to sit down when threatened rather than stand up for what was right. The plane touches down, harder than normal, Captain Walsh not caring about smooth landing, just about getting on the ground fast, reverse thrusters roaring, brakes engaging, the aircraft slowing from 150 miles per hour to taxiing speed in seconds that feel eternal. They don't go to a gate, stop right on the taxiway where emergency vehicles surround them, the door opens before the seatbelt sign turns off, paramedics rushing in with equipment and a stretcher, a pediatric emergency physician leading the team. Where's the sickle cell patient? The doctor's voice is urgent, professional. Here, Coach Rodriguez stands, waves them over. Isaiah Langford, 12 years old, diagnosed sickle cell disease since infancy, denied hydration for approximately 6 hours, in severe pain for the last 2 hours, difficulty breathing, altered consciousness. The medical team surrounds Isaiah immediately, hands moving with practiced efficiency, checking pulse and blood pressure and oxygen saturation, starting in 4-line even as they assess, pushing fluids and pain medication, preparing to move him. Pulse 140, BP 90/50, oxygen sat 87%. The paramedic calls out vital signs that make the doctor's face harden. This is full crisis. We need to move now. Transport to Children's Hospital LA. Call ahead for hematology team to meet us in emergency. They lift Isaiah onto the stretcher with careful speed, Coach Rodriguez following closely. I'm his teacher, his guardian for this trip. His parents are en route. Ma'am, you can ride with us. The doctor nods. We'll need medical history. As they carry Isaiah down the aisle, other passengers watch in silence, some crying, some looking ashamed, all of them understanding they witnessed something terrible and did nothing, that their phones full of video evidence of a child's suffering will haunt them. Sharon stands pressed against the galley wall as they pass, Isaiah's unconscious face visible for just a moment, the child she called dramatic being carried off her plane on a stretcher, and the weight of what she's done crashes over her completely. The ambulance speeds away from the airport, sirens wailing, Isaiah hooked to monitors and IVs, medical personnel working to stabilize him while Coach Rodriguez holds his hand and whispers that his parents are coming, that he's safe now, that he's going to be okay. But in the back of her mind, she's calculating the damage. 6 hours of crisis, organs starved of oxygen, cells dying throughout his body, brain and kidneys and lungs all at risk, wondering what permanent price Isaiah will pay for Sharon Hendricks' bias. At LAX airport, the investigation begins immediately, FAA inspectors boarding the still grounded plane, airport police escorting Sharon off the aircraft, passengers being interviewed, videos being collected, witness statements being taken. Captain Walsh gives her statement with visible anger. I was never informed of a medical situation until the child's father contacted me mid-flight. My lead flight attendant made decisions without consulting me that endangered a passenger's life. I want a full investigation into her conduct. Trevor gives his statement through tears. I tried to help, but Sharon said he was being dramatic. She's senior and I was afraid to challenge her. I should have gone to the captain directly. I'll never forgive myself. The man in 23B gives his statement with shaking hands. I watched that woman torture a child for hours. I tried to help, but when she threatened me, I backed down. I chose my own safety over his life. I have to live with that. And Marcus Langford's plane lands at LAX 40 minutes after his son's ambulance left for the hospital. He doesn't even change out of his uniform, runs through the terminal still in his captain's stripes, drives to Children's Hospital with his heart in his throat, praying he's not too late, praying the text he sent to save his son's life actually worked. In the ICU, Isaiah fights for his life while doctors work frantically, and Sharon Hendricks sits in an airport security office understanding that her 19-year career just ended, that her freedom might be ending too, that 6 hours of cruelty will define the rest of her life. Marcus Langford bursts through the emergency department doors of Children's Hospital Los Angeles still wearing his Delta pilot uniform, his captain's stripes visible as he runs to the reception desk, his voice urgent and breaking. My son Isaiah Langford, he was brought in by ambulance from the airport. Sickle cell crisis. Where is he? The nurse recognizes the desperation of a parent, checks her computer quickly. He's in the ICU, 3rd floor, but sir, you'll need to wait for the doctor to brief you before you can see him. I'm going up there now. Marcus doesn't wait for permission, heads for the elevators, takes the stairs when they're too slow, reaches the pediatric ICU breathing hard, finds a nurse station. Isaiah Langford, I'm his father. Where is he? A doctor appears. Dr. Sarah Chin, pediatric hematologist, her face showing the seriousness of the situation. Mr. Langford, I'm Dr. Chin. Your son is in critical condition. We're treating him for severe vaso-occlusive crisis with acute chest syndrome. He's on high-flow oxygen, for fluids, pain management. We're monitoring for organ damage. Can I see him? Marcus asks, his voice barely holding together. She leads him to a room where Isaiah lies in a hospital bed surrounded by machines, for lines in both arms, oxygen mask covering his small face, monitors beeping with vital signs that are still too unstable, too dangerous. Marcus drops into the chair beside the bed, takes his son's hand carefully. Isaiah, Daddy's here. I'm right here, buddy. You're safe now. Isaiah's eyes flutter open slightly, unfocused but aware enough to recognize his father's voice. Dad, the word comes out muffled by the oxygen mask. I know, son, I know. Marcus fights back tears. The doctors are giving you medicine to help. You're going to be okay, I promise. Dr. Chin speaks quietly from the doorway. Mr. Langford, your son's condition is serious. The prolonged dehydration caused extensive sickling throughout his system. We're seeing involvement in his lungs, kidneys, and spleen. The next 24 hours are critical for determining if there's permanent damage. How bad? Marcus asks, not taking his eyes off Isaiah. Too early to know, Dr. Chin is honest. We're running tests, monitoring kidney function, watching for signs of stroke. His youth works in his favor, but 6 hours without intervention in a sickle cell crisis is significant. The woman who did this, Marcus's voice hardens. The flight attendant who denied him water, she needs to face charges. The hospital has already filed mandatory reports with Child Protective Services and law enforcement, Dr. Chin says. What happened to your son constitutes medical neglect and child endangerment. Airport police arrive an hour later, take Marcus's statement, take photos of Isaiah in the hospital bed, collect the text messages, the medical documentation, build a case that will end Sharon Hendricks' freedom. Dr. Maya Langford arrives 3 hours later on emergency medical transport from Baltimore, where she was attending a hematology conference. She's still wearing her conference badge when she rushes into the ICU, sees her son connected to machines fighting for his life. She reads his charts with a physician's eye and a mother's heart breaking, sees the lab values that show kidney stress, the imaging that shows lung involvement, the damage that 6 hours of negligence caused to her baby's body. Baby, I'm here. She takes Isaiah's other hand. Mommy's here now. You're going to get better. We're going to fix this. Isaiah manages a small smile under his oxygen mask. Both parents here now. Safe finally. Help finally arriving after 6 hours of being told he didn't deserve it. Sharon Hendricks is arrested that evening at her hotel, charged with felony child endangerment and reckless endangerment, her mugshot showing a woman who still doesn't quite understand how giving a child water became a federal crime. She tries to explain to the arresting officers. "I didn't know it was that serious, he seemed fine, how was I supposed to know?" "You were told repeatedly," the officer says while reading her rights. "By the child, by passengers, by his coach. You chose not to listen, that's not an accident, that's a choice." The story breaks on news channels within hours, viral within the day, video from passengers showing Isaiah begging for water and Sharon walking away, showing the confiscated bottle, showing a child suffering while adults served drinks in first class. Public outrage is immediate and massive, hashtags trending, protests at airports, calls for Sharon to face maximum penalties, calls for SkyWest to explain how this happened. SkyWest releases a statement terminating Sharon Hendricks for gross negligence and announcing comprehensive policy reviews, but the damage is done, their stock plummeting, lawsuits being filed, an entire airline's reputation destroyed because one employee wouldn't give a sick child water. And in the ICU, Isaiah Langford fights through the night, his small body working to recover from trauma that should never have happened, his parents keeping vigil, his father who moved heaven and earth sitting beside him whispering that he's safe now, that nobody will ever hurt him like that again. Isaiah Langford stands at the podium in the United States Capitol, 15 years old now, testifying before Congress on the Aviation Medical Necessity Protection Act that bears his unofficial name, the bill everyone calls Isaiah's Law. He's taller than he was at 12, his voice deeper, but the scars from that day run deeper still, invisible damage that therapy helps manage but never fully heals. "My name is Isaiah Langford, and when I was 12 years old, I almost died on an airplane because a flight attendant decided my pain wasn't real." His voice is steady, practiced from debate training, but emotion bleeds through. "I followed every rule, I had medical documentation, I asked politely, I explained my disease, and I was told I was being dramatic, told I was manipulative, told to wait my turn while my body shut down cell by cell." The congressional chamber is silent, members listening with the kind of attention reserved for testimony that changes laws. "For 6 hours I begged for water," Isaiah continues. 6 hours while Sharon Hendricks served drinks to other passengers, while she confiscated water someone tried to give me, while she threatened people who tried to help, 6 hours of torture that caused kidney damage I still deal with, lung scarring that affects my breathing, trauma that gives me nightmares 3 years later. He pauses, looks at the papers in front of him, the medical records that document everything. "But I'm one of the lucky ones because my father is a pilot who had the power to ground an airline, because my mother is a doctor who knew how to fight the system, because I survived. How many other sick children are being dismissed right now on flights across America? How many are suffering because flight attendants look at them and see problems instead of patients?" Sharon Hendricks served 18 months in prison, lost everything, works warehouse night shifts now living alone, shunned by everyone who knows what she did. Her attorney argued at sentencing that she made an error in judgment, but the judge saw the pattern, saw the 27 prior complaints, saw that 19 of them involved passengers of color. The civil lawsuit settled for $7.8 million, money the Langford family used to create Isaiah's Voice Foundation, providing emergency medical advocacy for children with chronic illnesses, helping over 400 families navigate discrimination in healthcare and transportation. Isaiah still has sickle cell disease, always will, manages it with new medications and careful monitoring, but the physical scars pale compared to the psychological ones. He developed PTSD that required 2 years of intensive therapy, panic attacks when he sees airports, nightmares of begging for help while adults walk away. It took him 2 years before he could fly again, 2 years before he could face the confined space of an aircraft without breaking down. But he did it, flew to nationals at 15, won the championship in persuasive speaking with a speech about medical discrimination. If you've ever dismissed someone's pain because you thought they were exaggerating, if you've ever decided you knew better than a patient about their own body, this story should change you. Isaiah Langford nearly died because one flight attendant looked at a black child and saw manipulation instead of medical emergency. Subscribe if you believe every sick child deserves to be heard, like this video if medical racism needs to end, Comment below if you've been dismissed by healthcare workers because those stories matter. They save lives by proving this isn't rare. Congress passes Isaiah's law with bipartisan support, mandating that airlines honor documented medical needs without question, criminalizing denial of medical assistance, requiring comprehensive training on chronic conditions, creating accountability that didn't exist before. 2 years later, Isaiah is 17, accepted to Johns Hopkins studying public health, using his platform to speak at medical schools about implicit bias, training flight attendants on recognizing real emergencies, turning 6 hours of hell into a lifetime of advocacy. He stands before 200 SkyWest Flight attendants during mandatory training, shows them his hospital photos, tells them about the kidney damage and lung scarring, asks them what they would have done differently. One attendant raises her hand, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry for what happened to you. What do you want us to remember?" Isaiah's answer is simple, powerful. Believe us. When someone tells you they're sick, believe them. When a child says they're in pain, believe them. Especially when they're black, especially when they're young. We're the ones who get doubted most, and we're dying because of it. Sharon Hendricks watches his congressional testimony on a phone during her warehouse break, sees the boy she tortured now changing national policy, sees that her cruelty didn't break him but forged him into someone who'll make sure no other child suffers like he did. She whispers to the empty break room, "I'm sorry, but sorry doesn't undo kidney damage, doesn't erase trauma, doesn't bring back the childhood innocence that died on Flight 3472. Isaiah returns to flying regularly now, still anxious but managing, and on a recent flight to DC, a flight attendant saw his medical alert bracelet, brought him extra water without being asked, checked on him every hour, treated his medical needs as the priority they should always have been. The attendant said quietly, "We all know your story. We learned from what happened to you. Thank you for making us better." Isaiah cried, not from pain this time but from the knowledge that 6 hours of suffering created a system where the next sick child gets believed, gets helped, gets treated like their life matters. He still carries the trauma, always will, still has nightmares of Sharon's face telling him he's being dramatic while his body dies. But he's alive, he's fighting, he's changing the world one testimony at a time, one law at a time, one flight attendant at a time. And somewhere Marcus Langford keeps his son's desperate text message saved in his phone, the text that made him ground an airline, the words that nearly broke him, the proof that sometimes a father's love and a pilot's authority can move heaven and earth to save one precious life. Isaiah Langford didn't just survive, he transformed his pain into purpose, his suffering into systemic change, his near-death into a law that protects millions, and that makes every scar, every nightmare, every moment of that 6-hour hell worth carrying for the rest of his life.